The Graphic Histories Podcast.
I got bit by a radioactive bug. I tried an experimental drug. Went up for a stroll on a gamma testing range. I found an enchanted hurricane. I made a serum that made me small. I modified the serum so it would make me tall. Radioactive isotope in my eyes. Dying alien helped me accessorize. I gained the proportion and strength of a spider. Now I'm invincible and I can fly. I lost my sight, my other senses were heightened. I'm gonna put on my pajamas and go fight crime.
Hey there, and welcome to the Graphic Histories Podcast. My name is Andre Mayette, your podcast host. Big thanks to Uka the Mock for our theme song, Superpowers. And big thanks to you, gentle listener, for tuning in once again to the show. Speaking of Uka the Mock and the lovely library of interviews we have over the years, you go back and check out their episode, Uka the Mock. We're on the show, both of them, Rand and Adam, and it was a blast. It was a super fun talk, and one of my favorite conversations. I mean, there are a lot. They're all great in their own way, but that one particularly, I don't know, something about it just really resonated. I guess I've been listening to music almost my whole life. I mean, definitely most of my adult life, late teen years into now. And yeah, it was really cool to get to talk to them and discuss their work and all that great stuff. Speaking of talking to people about their work, today I talk with N. Stephen Harris, who is a very cool comic artist and creator doing some really cool work. Can you hear that typing? Can you hear me typing? Can you hear it? Sometimes I try to bring up a few notes to have available, and if I don't have them available right away, I scramble and try to do it while I'm talking. But then you just hear me typing and clicking away, so... Anyway, yes, no, I talked with N. Stephen Harris, really cool guy, great career in comics, done some really neat art, co-created Aztek, the Ultimate Man, with Mark Millar and Grant Morrison, a comic that I really enjoyed. It's connected to Grant Morrison's Justice League run back in the late 90s, early 2000s era, which is very cool, because I was a big fan of that book and also of Aztek, and I loved his design. I thought he was really kind of unique, and Stephen Harris had a big part of that, and we talk about that in the issue, or in the episode rather, and talk about working with those creators, working with the other creators. He's worked on Batman Officer Down, he's worked on Huntress for DC, Captain America, Generation X, X-Force, Deadpool, and even had some connections to the Deadpool movie based on that particular issue of Deadpool. We do talk a little bit about, creators I think are a little, I wouldn't say apprehensive, but sometimes when it comes to like the contracts, and not that we discuss actual money, but with how they're treated by the companies, the big companies, mostly the big two. There are big ones as well that are more than just two, but the big two are the ones that we often discuss. And it's interesting to get a candid conversation with someone who is very clear and straightforward about the way they were compensated for their work, and how when their work is reused in movies or in film or television, that what they actually see from that. And yeah, it's cool. It gives you a little insight into the industry, which is really fun. Getting to learn these creators and their process and where they come from, that's all great. But sometimes getting to peel back the curtain of the industry and some things that the layman, us on the outside, just reading the books, don't normally get a chance to know about unless we read the big autobiography that comes out eventually. Then we learn a thing or two. But yeah, getting candid interviews with people like that is pretty great. And speaking of stuff that I've discussed quite a bit on the show, and has come back around full circle, I see that they're kickstarting a documentary about the final few years of Stan Lee and how he was treated by his touring managers and sort of exploited to get as much money out of him as possible in his later years, when his health was failing and he wasn't having as good a time of getting around. So I know I've talked at length in different interviews about the Abraham Riesland book and True Believer, and about how to depict Stan Lee and Stan Lee's life and career, and his contribution to comics. And the movie, the what I've seen of the trailer, I guess there's still, I'm not sure if it got kickstarted or not, but I'll definitely watch it when it comes out. The doc is seemingly quite damning to the parties involved. So and it gave me a little more sympathy towards just sort of dismissing Stan Lee. Not that I ever did. I mean, his contribution to comics is huge. But that book sort of posits a lot that he was more of a rallying people behind the comics, the world, than he was actually like putting pen to pencil and really, or pen to paper, and really creating a lot of the content himself, and taking a lot of credit for things that he kind of should share credit on. I mean, that's a deeper conversation. But as a man that did a lot for comics, as a man who co-created a lot of books, it seemingly in his last few years he was very much taken advantage of by those who were sort of around to help him make money and to look after him. So it should be a very interesting project. I'm sure it's probably off the ground. It's likely been kickstarted already, but I am very interested to see that. And just goes to prove that perhaps there are two sides to every story. There are many sides to every story, more than just two. And it's important to be informed and keep in mind when you're presented these sort of narratives that you don't have every part of it. You never will. Unless you were there, you're never going to know every single part of it. And even if you were there, you're only going to know your part. So there are a lot of sides to a lot of things. And life's complicated. People are complicated. Nothing is black and white. So I'm looking forward to checking that out. So if that Kickstarter is already out there, I think it may be done by now. If not, go out and support it if able to get that story out there. Because there are probably some people that should answer for some pretty heinous things based on what I've been hearing. So, and I've heard stories from people, and I believe right on this very podcast, from people that have encountered Stan Lee at conventions and said it seemed as though he was very much being taken advantage of by those, his sort of handlers. And yeah, we'll find out. It'll all come to light, hopefully. Yeah, so let's get into it. Let's get into my conversation with N. Stephen Harris. It's a great talk, a great chat, and one you don't want to miss. You don't want to miss any show, but definitely don't miss this one. Great chat. N. Stephen Harris coming up right now.
Yeah, we'll go with this superhero.
That's a good one. I like it.
Thank you. All right, so so I was out in DC yesterday.
Oh, wonderful. Was it like a con or something, or just out?
No, it was a show. My friend Sean Martinbro. You know Sean Martinbro?
No.
He did Thief of Thieves. It was a Batman. He was a Batman illustrator, a Batman artist.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, for in the 90s. Yeah, we came together in a class outside of college for Michael Davis class back in the late 80s, early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So he invited me to be a part of a show along with a bunch of other artists, including Kari Randolph, Eric Battle, Fool Richardson, Dennis Cowan, Dawood Anyebule, aka David Sims, co-creator of Brother Man. It was a show called From Brother Man to Batman.
Oh, really? That is cool.
Yeah. So we were there. I went to DC to check it out and be a part of it last night, and so my wife and I we went there. We didn't spend the night, so we went there. Caught the 10:30 bus.
Uh-huh.
Got there around 3:30, 4 o'clock. Hung out. Caught the 11:15 p.m. bus. Got into Manhattan around 4 a.m. Got home around 5 and got into bed around 6 this morning.
My God. I was going to say, I thought you were in New York, but I was like, that's quite a bus ride to DC.
I'm in New York. I'm in New York.
Wow. Were you, is that where you're from originally? Were you born and raised there?
No, I'm born and raised in Jersey. I moved to New York in '89, my third year in college, and been here ever since. I was in Harlem at first, then moved to Brooklyn, Best Side Brooklyn, and now I am in Bushwick, New York. Bushwick.
Beautiful. Right on. I talked to someone a while ago. I think it was James Aquilone, who does like a editor who does books and stuff, and he's a New York kid, grew up there, and get a sense for what it's like in the city. I've only been there once.
Okay.
I'm in Nova Scotia, Canada, so just a little north from where you were. But,
is that close to Maine?
Yeah, just above it, basically. So Maine, if you look at the provinces in Canada, there's like the big one that's sort of right above Maine. That's New Brunswick, and then right beside it, there's like the one that's kind of shaped like a 7. That's Nova Scotia. So
okay, I was in Princeton, Maine, about 10 years ago. A friend of mine got married there.
Oh yeah, well, Maine's very similar to here. Like it looks the same, as far as like the woods and stuff go. They film a lot of Stephen King movies in Nova Scotia because it's
Oh, okay.
a lot cheaper to film here, and like it looks the exact same as Maine. So, where everything takes place in his world.
Okay.
Cool. Well, growing up in Jersey, what got you into comics? Were you a comic kid from the get-go, or?
Wow. Okay. It's a okay. You got about 3 hours now.
Oh yeah, yeah, I got lots of time.
Okay. I was always drawing as a kid, and what changed? I was always drawing. I think these battle scenes or with tanks and stuff.
hmm
And then I saw Star Wars, and that changed everything. And I started getting into science fiction, space battle, space operas. I got into anime. Like my favorite anime was Star Blazers.
Nice. That's one I don't hear talked about very often.
I know, and I was like, why is that not talked about so much?
Yeah.
Because
That is it the
yeah,
battleship Yamamoto or something as well? Is
yeah,
that the same thing?
yeah.
Yeah.
In Japan, it's called space battleship Yamato. Of course,
Mm.
it's not gonna be called Yamato because that was a World War II battleship that sunk a lot of American ships.
Right.
But so I saw those two things. Uh, my first anime was I think Marine Boy and Speed Racer. It may have
hmm
been all the same day because I was at my grandparents' space. That's when I first came. That's one of the first encounters I had with cable TV.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And cable TV at the time, in the 70s. Yeah, I go back far to the 70s.
Oh yeah, that's all good.
The cable TV was Philadelphia TV stations at the time. So the
Mm.
key ones were Channel 17 and Channel 29 for Philadelphia. They had the best cartoons. They actually had Japanese animation.
That's
And
awesome.
that's when I saw like special effects and people dying in cartoons. I was like, oh, what is this? Is not Scooby Doo. Not Croft Superstars. It's not Bugs Bunny. and uh and so that blew my mind. And Star Blazers was the first serialized cartoon that I saw, or animation that I saw. Because Speed Race may be a little bit serialized, but not like Star Blazers was.
Not really. I mean, I think they just had the overarching like who
It was kind
Racer
of
X is, that
episodic.
sort of thing. That's about it.
Yeah, it's, only time thing that was like a thread with maybe Racer X, the mystery of Racer X, and some other things.
Mhm.
But that was like a storyline, and so Star Wars is and Star Wars got me to reading comics because there was a Star Wars comic that came out,
Like
and
as a kid, did you like because the comic was a bit different, right, at the start because like
it
they
was
start putting the comic out before the movies, so they had
yeah,
like
because I think the first artist was Walt Simonson,
Mhm.
and then the series started happening. It was I think the couple of covers, which I think Howard Chaykin of the first Star Wars oversized book, and the artist I think may have been Walt Simonson. I'm not sure,
Mhm.
but the Star Wars comic book series was by Carmine Infantino.
Mhm.
Also the popular, uh, known for his flat work on the Flash early on, and that branched out to me buying comics like a Battlestar Galactica comic,
Mhm.
Warriors comic, and that was like kind of my comic book thing for a while from the 70s to like I guess 80, and that kind of fell off a little bit. I had a few superhero comics, like I had an Iron Man comic here and there, maybe it's, but nothing really collected, nothing really monthly. At the time, I was going to newsstands. It was I hadn't heard of, I had no idea of direct market comic books, say
Mhm.
comic book shops at the time. So that kind of got me into comics, and then I was, I was drawing, but I was drawing these big space battle scenes that featured Star Blazer ships. So I
Mhm.
was always drawing spaceships or tech, and I didn't know how to draw people at the time. And then uh, I started wanting to tell a story with my work, and two things happened off the top of my head. I was watching Saturday morning cartoons, and one of my favorite cartoons was Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
Mhm.
I got hip to X-Men. I always saw X-Men ads in the comic books, but I didn't even pay much attention to them. And so uh, I wanted to tell a story about work, and I said either I can go into animation or comic books. And I said animation is too much work.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I'll do comic books, and this is okay. This transition happened around me going into the seventh grade, or no, yeah, going to seventh or eighth grade. No, going to high school. And I think I was going to high school, and yeah, going to high school, and I said, okay, I need to learn how to draw people, and so I started collecting comic books. Uh, my late uncle, who also was an artist, but he didn't use it too much because he was like in and out of trouble all the time, and he would only draw when he was in prison, and he had these beautiful charcoal drawings, pastel drawings.
Wow.
He did family portraits. He did a picture of Hulk fighting a giant panther. He did a homage to the Frazetta painting,
Nice.
the Demon on the Horse.
Yep.
And he did a copy of that, but he did I think the original of that one of his own composition of the horse, him and the horse charging the viewer.
Oh wow.
I don't think Frazetta did that. I don't think he did that, but he did
He
the
had
profile.
one. It wasn't the Death Dealer guy. It was like it was kind of a Conan-y looking guy that was charging on the horse, not straight on, but like off to the side. But there.
Yeah, this was straight on. I remember this is straight on. Like it's an upshot.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
It's coming at you, and the demon, the rider on top.
Well, that's very interesting. It's
He
cool
did
that he found an outlet.
What's that?
It's just cool that obviously notwithstanding having issues, but that his outlet was art in jail to pass the time.
Yeah.
Like it's a shame people can't find a way to integrate that into the real world outside of that situation. But
yeah, and he did a picture that was a fan of a neighborhood my friend's favorite was a black woman with a huge afro, and she was topless with a loincloth on, right? And she was sitting on the floor, and it was right. My father, we grew up in the house, and my father put it right on the foyer. So as you walked in the house, that's the first thing you see. So in hindsight, it's like, why would he put it there? And like my friends coming, they're like, yo. And they stare at it.
But the most popular house in the neighborhood.
Yeah. So it's tough to. I want to say he was an inspiration, kind of, but he wasn't. I didn't have a lot of connection with him. But I saw his paintings in the house, and he did. And the few times I talked to him, he did suggest looking at comics, and so either he suggested that or he encouraged me to do that because I was already doing it. I'm not sure how it was, but he was like he kind of saw me, and I'll say he left an impression more so, and I guess an inspiration too, to continue what I always had in mind to do or what I was doing. And my parents always supported me. They were nervous, but they never said. They supported me by getting art supplies, encouraging my wanting to be an artist, and so that helped a lot. They got me a drawing table, and so
that's sweet.
And so and the story about me getting into comics was that story from going Star Wars, collecting those comic books, then getting back into comic books heavy, and I got back into comic books heavy when I was in high school. And I started with the X-Men, and I started I started paying attention to the artists who were drawing these comic books. My first.
What version of X-Men was that? Like, was that
It was Uncanny X-Men. It was Uncanny X-Men. It was like, okay, the first issue I got was X-Men 172, and I lost it, and then 5 months later I started collecting it again, and that was X-Men 177. So 172 was Paul Smith X-Men,
right?
And then when I started again, it was John Romita Jr. Now that was inked by Joe Sinott, but his father inked. He inked himself on the cover of that cover, John Romita Jr. And Joe Sinott inked him on the interiors, if I remember correctly.
Right. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Who was writing it at the time? Was that Claremont?
Is
that Claremont was writing it at the time?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay.
So then I started collecting the back issues of X-Men. That leads to me discovering the direct comic book market.
Yeah.
And that was like maybe 1984, 85, after a year of me collecting comic books from the newsstand. And at that time, I'm thinking that if I miss an issue, that's it. I'll never get the comic book again. Oh my gosh, I'm depressed. And that happened with New Mutants when Professor Xavier started walking again.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And my friend got the last copy in the newsstand. I dang it. So one time we walk in this flea market, right? It's called the Watchung Flea Market in Jersey. Watchung is a place in Jersey. It's called the Watchung Flea Market. WATCHUNG is Watchung.
Mm-hmm.
And so we usually go there and get clothes or whatnot. My brother would get Chinese stars, martial arts.
Like throwing stars.
They sold stuff like that in this flea
Wow.
market. Swords, martial arts weapons. I'm sure they don't do that now. They did that in the 80s. In the 80s were wild. So,
You just go down to the local flea market and get a bunch of martial arts weapons.
yeah. He had sides, he had stars, he had all stars, right? So, and this is the heyday of the martial arts movies. So a lot's going on at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I venture off to the end of the flea market, and I see a comic book area. And this blows my mind. I'm seeing comics I've never seen before. I'm seeing some comic books other than Marvel and DC. I'm seeing independent comic books. I'm seeing bins of back issues. I say, back issues, what's that? And I said, oh, comic books I've missed. So I started blowing my allowance on this stuff like crazy. I was getting back issues of X-Men. I was getting back issues of the Paul Smith run, the second Dave Cockrum run, which I wasn't a big fan of Dave Cockrum, but it was X-Men, so I'm going to collect it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I was getting back issues of Avengers, John Byrne Avengers, George Perez Avengers. I was collecting Doctor Strange because Doctor Strange wasn't on the newsstands. Daredevil was on the newsstands. This expanded my whole comic book collection.
Wow.
And expanded my budget. So
thankfully that was the day where comics were like, I don't know, 75 cents a comic or something, or 50 cents a comic.
Yeah, yep, 75 cents,
yeah.
65, 75 cents a comic.
Yeah.
I mean, in that, when I started collecting, it was 25 and 35 cents a comic.
Yeah, right.
But going into that era in the early to mid 80s, it was like 75 cents comic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, I started collecting. I was collecting comics heavy from 83 to about 2000. I still collect comics today, but not weekly. I'll go every few months and get some things I missed.
Yeah, I kind of do that too. I have a few books that I stick with, but it's not like it used to be. It's it's so expensive, and there's also so many. It's like it's hard, you know.
Three combos put you back $15.
Oh yeah. Well, I actually kind of rediscovered some of and I hate, like, I always try to be a little bit of a purist when it comes to like comics, but you know, we are in a digital age with subscription services, and I did take a shot at the Marvel one. And it's pretty great. You know, like you can find almost any old Marvel comic on there, almost anything you could think of. It's in there.
Yeah, I used to be part of Marvel subscription service, but that's when they mailed the comic to you, when they had little ads in the comic book.
Yeah, I remember those. Yeah,
I would get my comics were X-Men, New Mutants, and G.I. Joe.
Where I grew up, I used to see those in the back of the comics, and it was never, I think it was only in America you can do it in Canada, but I remember I used to always kind of be like really amazed with how cool it would be to have my comic show up at my door, you know, in an envelope, because mine were just at a convenience store. Like even the nearest city from where I grew up that would have had a comic store was about 3 hours away, so it was like, it's not something I visited very often. So
my challenge of going to that flea market was across the highway, and I wasn't allowed to ride my bike across the highway.
Oh, right, of
but
course.
I find a way I could be very resourceful if I want to do something. Find a way to cross the highway without crossing the highway. And so I got in trouble crossing the highway one time going to a amusement park called Bowcraft, which was in Scotch Plains, New Jersey. It's no longer there. There's a bunch of condominiums over there now. But how I got across that was like, there's a ramp that I could ride my bike down and go to local shopping mall, which is called Blue Star Shopping Mall,
Mm.
and so they're all the Blue Star Shopping Mall and the Watson Flea Market are along the same side of the highway, but there's like woods blocking there's like woods between it and some grass, and is a property that belongs to a all girls high school.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found a way to go there without crossing the highway. My father was like, "How'd you get there? Did I tell you not to cross the highway?" "Yeah, you told me not to cross the highway, but I found a way not to cross the highway to get there." And I told him how. I said, "Oh, all right, okay."
I love that it's not the distance or the time missed, it's just how you got there. As long as it was the proper way, you're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's lovely.
We went everywhere on our bikes, man. It was crazy. It was crazy.
Well, that was the era of doing that. You could kind of, I don't, the days of like, I live in a pretty like rural area.
Mhm.
But my neighbors' kids, I see them outside playing, the like neighborhood kids and stuff. But there's not a lot here, but I don't see kids riding their bikes in town anymore, like, or kids walking by themselves anymore. It's just, yeah, it's kind of a sad
Yeah,
change in the
walking
state.
by yourself, going to the store for your parents or your older relative and bringing back the
Oh,
right.
I remember going to buy scratch tickets and cigarettes for my grandmother. Like she would give me like, like, and I turned 40 this year, but like, it's like, I remember her giving me a note that says, Edie Diggins, pick up, for this, my grandson, selling lottery tickets and cigarettes for him. And it would fly. They would sell it to me,
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I don't know about I don't know about cigarettes because my parents didn't smoke, but I had an aunt that I would visit every weekend
mm,
and spend the night over there because my parents were young parents and they know that they probably need some want to express themselves over the weekend.
mm.
My brother and I would spend the night over my aunt's house every weekend, just about every weekend either from Friday to Sunday or Saturday to Sunday, and she would have us go to the store, maybe get some food from a local shop or something like that, and we'd make sure to bring back the correct change all the time when she sent
Oh
us
yeah.
back out there.
Yeah. Did you get well, speaking about those comics that you were getting into, like, so was it specifically just the art that you were following, or were you just engaged in the story
No,
enough to keep
I
going?
followed the story too. I
Yeah,
was in
cool.
the story, but if the art wasn't great, I may hold off on reading it for a while.
Mm,
Like okay, for instance, I didn't like the art in New Defenders,
hmm.
and uh, but I still picked it up for whatever reason. I'm not sure why I picked. They had some great covers.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They had
Yeah.
some great covers. That may have been it, but I still read it. Um, I wasn't fond of the art. I mean, I was actually looking forward to a guest artist on some of those books. When
Yeah, it's wild when
I
you're a kid and you kind of don't put that together. Like the first few times I got into comics, I don't remember. Like when the art changed, it was like it shook my world because you're so
Yeah,
used to it, and then you're like, "What the hell is
and,
this?" You
yeah,
know?
and then yeah, and as I was collecting it, I started thinking, so okay, so I want to do this someday. I want to draw a comic someday, and I don't want to feel like I'm feeling about this person's art. I don't want them feeling about my art like I'm feeling about this guy's art. And I was like, so I was like having an existential experience there. So I was like, I gotta make sure my stuff is good because and I started saying maybe I should be a little more sensitive about how I criticize this guy's art because he's doing what I want to do, but I want people to like my work.
Mm,
And I don't, like I said, I don't want people to feel the way I feel about his artwork,
hmm.
but I still want to be respectful of it.
Yeah.
And this is like I start like I said, I started collecting in '83. I think in my sophomore or junior year in high school is when I decided I wanted to do comics.
Mm.
And I started looking, and then in my junior year, I was looking at colleges to go for art.
And the
And I
parents are
came
still cool
across,
with that. They like I know that you said
yeah,
they're supportive of you. Yeah. Oh, awesome, cool. It's
yeah.
I wouldn't say it's actually funny because I used to always say how it's a minority, like it's a minor. It's in the minority that I hear people say, "Oh, my parents were super supportive of me wanting a career in art." But actually, lately, I've had enough conversations with people where they've had cool parents, and it's kind of turned me around a little bit to getting out of that stereotype that like, oh, every parent just wants you to be a banker or a doctor or something. Like,
I mean,
they're not.
my mother. I mean, when I was out in the field, my mother was like encouraging me to like get a job with the benefit. No, not we'll say, what about benefits? There's a job at benefits. I'll say,
Mm.
listen, I'm not gonna be beholden. I don't want this. I have one life to live. I
Yeah.
don't want. I don't want to. I was taking on a draw or bust mentality
Well, it's a very adult. Like I'm impressed with your mindset even at a young age to once identify, other artists and how their work makes you feel, and trying to think about how your work will make others feel, and
Yeah,
also that you would put that much thought into it that early in your life when getting into your career. That like,
yeah,
you
because
know,
I made that decision, and I'm like going through I have my foundation. No, I mean, foundation year at SVAs or school visual arts.
hmm
We call it SVA. And during orientation, there were a lot of professional artists teaching at SVA still today. Matter of fact, I have friends and colleagues that are teaching SVA right now. So when these professionals go on the stage and speak about what it takes to be a professional artist, and these were illustrators. These weren't comic book artists. These were illustrators. They were saying you have to be prepared to spend 11-hour days drawing at the table, and that like yo I was like whoa, really? And I said, well, maybe I could do that. I knew I draw, and I don't know if I spent like that long drawing, but I said if this was going to take, this was going to take.
mm,
And so I already said like, if this is going to be like uh you know draw a bus for me, so I had to really use that time in school to really hold my talent, and develop the skill, because there's a distinction between talent and skill. Talent will get you. Talent relies on inspiration, motivation to draw.
mm.
Skill will get you through those days when you don't feel like drawing.
Yes, yeah,
You have a deadline,
yeah.
and so um,
Yeah, that's nice. I like how that you worded that. That's nice. That's a
yeah,
good, yeah,
yeah,
that's a good way to look at it.
yeah, because it's I had to, because the people were we were encouraged to use reference, and I still use reference to this day. But as a comic book artist, I was learning that comic book artists have tighter deadlines, and they
Mm.
got to do more stuff within the deadline. And I cannot be a slave to reference. I got to learn how to draw so I can draw some things out of my head,
Mm.
and you know uh, and collect reference as little as I can, or not be a slave to it. I mean, of course, I'm going to use reference for like cars, buildings, interiors, and it was hard to come across that because unless you had to buy stuff, you got to buy magazines.
Yeah, you didn't have the internet to look up whatever you needed for reference
Oh,
now.
yeah,
Like yeah,
and there were serious illustrators who do photo shoots with models and clothing,
yeah.
and I don't know how they got the money to do that, but
I remember
or
looking at like Wizard magazine, I think it was, where they had like some thing about Alex Ross, and it was showing all of the photos that he used for reference. And it was
yeah,
like it's just like his friend wearing like a cape or something by a light that turns into Superman, or some very
exactly.
iconic picture, and you're like, oh my God, like it's
And I have some pictures like those where my wife, my then girlfriend, was taking pictures of me.
nice.
And we as an illustrator, you have to have a sense of photography, because you may be doing your own shoots. So I had to have a camera and take pictures of either have people I know take poses. So it was like cool, and I grew up around a bunch of artists, and so it was cool to hang out with other artists, and or help them do their projects uh, by taking pictures or being part of their reference, or actor in
Yeah.
the in their composition. So, and sometimes we try to use to get girls too, but I'll draw you someday.
Of
But
course, yeah. I don't think that works anymore. It may have
no,
worked back then. Yeah.
I think you need to rely on your confidence, and when your art comes
Yeah.
up, then I mean, then your confidence is first. But I'll
Yes,
say
of
that.
course.
But not niggas at school on how to get women. But
Mhm.
but yeah, so uh, that was key. Be no have a little sense of photography. I took a photography class in high school. My high school actually had a lot of art classes, and
Oh, wow.
as I was graduating, it bragged about having the most art classes for a public high school on the East Coast. I'm
Wow.
like, why didn't you tell me? I mean, I knew I had like classes, but I'm like, and I took them almost all of them, but I had to take them all my senior year in high school because in finding myself, I was finding myself, and had a couple missteps with a couple classes,
Hmm.
um, set me back a little bit. So I mean, not I wasn't left back, but what happened was I took French class I took Junior Air Force ROTC.
Oh wow.
So I was like, so I was like, trying to build the college resume.
Hmm.
When I was trying to find myself, I found myself like I said, my junior year. So I took French class from my freshman to freshman to junior year, and I took ROTC. I think those 3 years also. I said, you know what? I don't want to do this my high school, my senior year.
Mm.
So my senior year, all I had to do, all my only requirements were English and gym.
Mm.
And those are my two requirements. And the rest of the classes I filled with art classes.
Wow.
And my high school had drawing 1, drawing 2. I started with drawing 2. They had painting 1, painting 2. I did painting 2. They had airbrush. I did airbrush. They had photography, lettering, and those classes. They did offer.
Wow, that's a crazy school. That's amazing. The amount of art.
Yeah, it was a regular public high school, and they had
Wow.
advertising. They had advertising class too. I wanted to take that, but excuse me, but they didn't offer it that my senior year. They offered it the year before, and they offered it the year after I graduated, but they didn't have it when I graduated. I mean, they didn't have it when I was a senior.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, and yeah. So I had two teachers. Miss Peterson was the drawing teacher, drawing and painting teacher, and Miss Siegel, I think was the airbrush teacher.
Wow. That's insane. That's a hell of a doc. That's basically art school. Like you just went to an art school. Like that's art college, whatever.
I was one of the top 3 artists in the school, or top recognized artists in the school. I won't say top 3, but top recognized, and all 3 of us were named Steve. It was Steve Green who was more in graffiti.
I was going to say, did each Steve have a specific area they excelled in? Yeah,
very different. My friend Steve Green, did graffiti and was a DJ. Now he's a bishop and does murals. And he's very involved in graffiti in Newark, New Jersey. There was Stephen Fine, who is a fine artist. I don't know what he's doing now. I have no idea what he's doing now. And there was me, who was comic book oriented.
yeah, no.
Yeah.
So did you go from that step to art school? Was that like the college or art college? Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
that was school I went to. After that, I worked at AT&T in the art department. For that summer, my summer job in the art department, I learned more about airbrushing.
for AT&T, you say?
Yeah, AT&T in Middletown, New Jersey. I
Wow.
worked there for the summertime.
And the lure of commercial art didn't drag you in. I mean,
I learned stuff there.
Yeah.
And I said, if things will work out in school, I'll probably have a job, at AT&T somewhere, in some corporate offices.
Yeah, I'm a graphic designer. That's my day job. So I certainly appreciate the commercial art side of things, so they do it a lot. But there is some part of you that dies a little bit inside.
I would have died.
Some customer points out something about something that's like the blandest, dumbest thing that they want, and you just have to like accept it and move on.
You're triggering me.
Oh God, I'm sure it happens in comics too, but like in the art world.
I've done storyboards for advertising companies, and it's like, or just illustrations, and it's like, you're getting critiqued by committee, and it's like. It's
so frustrating, and obviously like it's and I think I've talked about this before, but like you do design work for someone, let's say it's a logo, and you'll be like, here are the first 3 are usually the ones that I really like and put a lot of time in. The next 3 are like, here are like, variations, difference. The last couple are like, here's some wild cards. And then the last one's usually like someone I just threw together. It's like, here's another option. I don't care anything about this. I put no thought into it. And then more often than not, that's the one they like the most. Like that, like 95% of the time, it's the one that I cared nothing about, put no thought into, and just threw together. That's the one they like the most.
Listen, that happened to me. Like I heard that philosophy, and I was doing that in like 10 years ago. I was on a project, and I did that, right. I did, maybe if I had some ideas, I did like this, that, and I'll just throw something away in there, right. And every time the editor chose not every time, but a couple times the editor chose the one I did not like. I said, okay, I'm not doing this ever again. I'm every choice, every sketch I'm doing, I'll make sure I like.
Mm.
Not throwing any garbage in there because I don't want to draw garbage.
No, that's a good point. Maybe I should adopt that. But wow. Well, when you got out of school and you worked for AT&T, like when did you get? How did you transition from that to working into the comics? Like getting
Oh,
into the industry?
it was part of the path.
Oh, okay.
It was part of because I said AT&T was just a summer job.
Mhm.
AT&T was a summer job I got through. My mother worked at AT&T, but another location. She had some friend. She had a friend that was like worked there. And he worked some things, and it was like part. No, some because this program is part of like some college. So it was like some college kids were there. I wasn't there part of a college program because I wasn't in college yet.
Mhm.
I was on my way to college. I was already accepted to school of large, but I wasn't in a college program to go to this um this program, but I was in there, and it was just like 3 months, summer like George, just 2 months, July, August,
Mm.
June, July, August, or July, August, and so I was there, and then school started. And I thought, I thought I was gonna be ahead of the curve, right? But no, I came in barely on time because I learned how to use the brush, how to ink with a brush. I
Mm.
learned airbrushing. I was in a work environment. But I come to school of visual arts. I'm with a whole bunch of number one top artists of their high school. Some of them have went to LaGuardia. Some went to or art and design. And I'm like, oh, these guys are up. And so I'm blown away. And in the 4 years I'm at SVI, I think I got a decent education, a decent radiance for the world. But some of those guys that went art and design or went to LaGuardia were like meh, because they thought because I asked one of the guys I went to school with years later of why he thought he didn't get a great education at School of Visual Arts. He said because I went to LaGuardia and I thought I was going to be further from that. I was going to continue what I learned at LaGuardia.
Mm.
And he said, "Nah, everything I learned at LaGuardia was at School of Visual Arts."
No.
I'm like, "Wow, okay."
Wow.
He was a phenomenal artist. I mean, because I was intimidated by him because he was one of the people I was intimidated by because but he was older than me. He's like 2 years older than me.
Mm.
He's just like drawing these beautiful illustrations of these beautiful women, just like sitting down in the lounge between classes. I'm like, okay, I gotta get better.
Yeah.
I gotta get better. But what helped me also before I got there in my high school, I said my art teacher, Miss Peterson, she was the first person whose critique I had to respect.
Mm.
And so if I got a critique from somebody who wasn't an artist, I just like tossed away, right? Because you don't draw, you don't understand what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But she gave me a critique. I was like, oh, okay. That hurt my heart. I had my confidence for a little while, but
Mm.
I had to get back on the wagon and just like keep at it. And so when I went to SVA, I got critiques from upperclassmen, that stung a bit, but they weren't trying to break me down. They were trying to say, listen, you got potential, and this is like I said, upperclassmen. This not even my teachers yet. So I got an education from teachers and people I was friends with who were a year, 2 or 3 years ahead of me.
Yeah, that's a hard lesson to learn when you're younger, is to not take it personally and try to understand that it's really just to help you.
I kept coming back for more punishments. There was two guys in particular. I called them. I based them off the GI Joe Silent Interlude issue, where the origins of Snake Eyes and Storm
Storm
Shadow.
Shadow, yeah.
They had the two masters, the hard master and the soft master.
Right.
I call these two guys the hard master. Edgar.
That's really funny.
My friend Edgar, super talented, drawing caricatures, just like drawing stuff off the top of his head in the lounge, making jokes, insulting us by drawing us as characters, and just like laughing at us, drawing us like, I would get you. And he would give me a critique. He would start saying, "Oh, this looks great," but then he would go into it and just break it down. Say, "Okay, you need to do this and do that, work on that, and what's this right here? I think you need to reference that and make that look better." And there was another guy called Rashid. Rashid was more. He looked at it and says, "What is this you're giving me? I mean, why does your hand look like this? He looks anorexic. I mean, fix that." He
That's the
was going.
hard. He's the hard mother.
He was a hard. I would come back every week, glad for more punishment. And they respected
Mm,
me for that. I saw Edgar like maybe a few years ago in Brooklyn at what we call the Dance Africa celebration at BAM, Brooklyn Academy of Music, every
mm,
year at at uh, yeah, Brooklyn Academy of Music is like a festival type
mm.
thing. And I saw him walking around the crowd. There's vendors there, and I saw him. I can talk to him a little bit, but I haven't seen Rashid in a little while. But yeah, they gave me a very good because the cartoon department at SVA at that time wasn't. I didn't think was that great because it kept me from being a cartooning major. I was illustration major, and then as soon as I left, then come artists who I recognize like Walt Simonson, Carmine Infantino, Claus Jansen come to teach it.
Wow. Wow.
They came in '91. They came in '91. Not really Walt Simonson, but he was there maybe as a guest a few times.
Wow.
But they came in '91. I graduated in '91, and they came in I graduated in the spring of '91. They came in the fall of '91.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. 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 That's amazing. Well, when did you actually get your first work in comics? What was the first project?
In '91, fall '91, I was no, actually, okay. I was assistant to Dennis Cowan in '90.
Hmm.
1990, I was his assistant for a while, and I was working on his pages, like his Deathlock pages.
Hmm.
Uh,
How'd you get that gig initially just out of school? Like, where did that come from?
Okay,
To be his
that goes
assistant.
back.
All right.
That goes back to the school I was telling you about where I met Sean
Yeah.
Martin because we were taking a class outside of I was taking a class outside of school just large, and that was because I lived in Harlem. It was like a 5 blocks away from me in Harlem in a community center called the Children's Art Carnival, and a man named Michael Davis was teaching there. And so every Friday and Saturday, he would have a bunch of Black Latino kids come there and learn about comics.
Cool.
And part of his class was like every week you come here, you have to have a completed page drawing that you from a story that you wrote. And completed by completed, he meant pencil, inked, and colored, or pencil and colored. But
Hmm.
he meant when to ink it, and it has to be a DC character, but you can't use Batman.
Hmm.
And so you can't Batman cannot be in it. I was hard at it. I put Batman in it, but I had Batman get shot. And Black Lightning, and I had Black Lightning be the main character. Black Lightning had to solve who go after those who shot him.
Okay.
And so my first day there, I'm like, class was already started like 3 to 4 weeks in the class, and I come in like at that time because a friend of mine at school was large, who was a couple of years younger than me, when we invited me to come along, and this time I'm in my third year at SVA.
Mm.
Again, school was large, and I just moved to Harlem that summer. So he invited me up there, and I met Michael Davis. And Michael Davis's best friend was Dennis Cowan.
Oh, okay.
Dennis Cowan came up there that year to visit the school, and we saw his pencils, and we talked to him. He saw my work. All the kids called me. One of my biggest influences at the time was Rick Leonardi, and they all called. And I'm like the oldest kid in the class, but they called me Little Leonardi. So my work was impressed with it, and gave me his number, wanted me to come by his studio, and a few months later I was his background artist,
Wow.
and he helped me get a job, my first comic book job, at this comic book company called Personality Comics, which is over in Long Island, New York, in Farmingdale, Long Island, based out there, and I did I did the first, because I did a sample, a KRS-One sample, so I could do likenesses, right? The KRS-One is a hip hop artist. I'm not sure you're even familiar with him.
No.
Uh, from the '80s, and I did well, no, he's from the group Boogie Down Productions, and so I did a sample with him, and so I could do likenesses of people, and so from that they gave me a job of Ricky, and okay, Personality Comics, their business model was to do comics of celebrities.
Mm. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
So whether sports celebrities, movie celebrities, whatever celebrity they were. So I
Mm.
did Ricky Henderson bio, right? And again, I had to get my own reference. So it was like tough finding. That wasn't tough finding reference of Henderson, but I had to find reference on when he was a kid,
Mm.
and like, where am I gonna find that? Like, I had to make it up, and I did an awful job. I had to pencil and ink it in like 3.5 weeks.
Oh wow.
22,
Wow.
22, 24 pages, something like that, right?
Oof.
And the best page of that was the first page. And everything after that was like ass. And I was using the crow quill. And I was just trying to figure out the crow quill. I looked at it again recently. I said, "Oh, this is worse than I thought it was." I'm looking back at it like what 30 years plus. But yeah, so it was. And Dennis was away for 2 weeks when I was doing it, or for a few weeks when I was doing it. And he came back. He was upset with me because I did such an awful job on it. But
Yeah.
I was on time. I got the job done. And I was accountable for it.
Mm-hmm.
Later gave me another job, but I used the pencil. Someone else. I used the pencils. It was a Jimmy Page story,
Oh, okay.
like 8 pages long. I did a better job on it, and then they later changed their business model. They went from personality comics to triumphant comics, and their main character was Chromium Man. And so this is like years later, a few years, it's like 2 years later. Yeah, and my work has developed, is improved, and I was working at DC Comics for 6 months at the new talent department on staff.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was run by Neil Posner, but I think they modeled it after Michael Davis's class,
Mm-hmm.
where you have young artists come in and draw and do their thing under with a teaching structure with critiques and all that.
Yeah.
So, but DC had less of a structure. I mean, it was just two of us, and both our names were Steve. Again, the Steve's in. They called it.
All the artists are Steves in the New York State, apparently.
They called us Steve Art. And,
The
and
Steves.
and what we were ended up being was a glorified bullpen because we did a lot of art corrections. We weren't. I thought we were there to like do comics and have people critique us. And so what ended up happening was in my downtime from doing art corrections, I was doing my own samples.
Right.
And Dick Giordano was still alive at the time, so he would critique me a little bit. Neil Posner would do some critiques, but it wasn't really a structured thing. And so, but I was there for 6 months, and the deal was if we lasted 3 months, we would get extra 3 months, and at the end of 6 months total, we would be giving a project. We would be giving work totaling $22,000 for a year, and that was a good deal back in '93.
Yeah.
But at the end of 6 months, nothing. We left, and we didn't finish the week out. We left on a Tuesday.
Wow.
Yeah, and so, but Steve ended up doing assistant work for Dick Giordano up in Connecticut. But yeah, but okay. But now, how I got the job at Triumphant, right? I went to a convention in August of '93. I'm still at DC Comics, and show my portfolio just to set myself up for after I leave DC Comics. And the editors at Triumphant were there, and she was like, "Yo, your work's amazing. Can we work with you?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm working at DC Comics right now, but I'll be free like in October." And they really wanted to work with me, and that was a good feeling. I was like,
Yeah,
great,
of course.
great.
Yeah,
Right?
validation.
Yeah. And so when I finally left DC Comics, I started working for Triumphant Comics, and they like I said, they were personality comics at first, and then they said you could do whatever book you want. I said, okay, I'll do your flagship title. And I took over for the artists they had over there. I think they fired the artists.
No.
So I think I came on issue 3 or issue 4.
Yeah.
Chromium Man. And that's how I was doing got my other professional job as on my first job on a regular title.
Wow.
But they end up going bankrupt and end up owing me like $5,000+, and that was that was a learning experience too, because I mean they had the contract where a lot of companies had contracts like this where they say we'll pay you 60 days after publication.
Right.
And that is like, no, any artists out there, do not sign a deal like that.
Yeah, that's insane.
Because you on 6 days is a long time after you spend a month plus doing a book.
Oh
And
yeah.
then but this is like after, and publication may not happen until a month after, or if
Yeah.
publication happens. If publication
Yeah.
doesn't happen, we gotta pay you.
Yeah. That's insane. Oh man. The
Yeah,
amount
so
of just talking to folks that work in comics and the amount of deals and raw deals that end up happening over the years and how they structure things in a way that can kind of screw you over. It's a real eye-opening experience and
yeah,
how
so artists. I mean, I learned later. Like I learned like 4 years later. No, don't ever take those deals. I mean, I
Mhm.
haven't had those deals offered me often, but I
Mhm.
did. I did have it one other time, but by then but after that, I had joined the studio, and they hit me about one person in particular. There hit me about when when you get a job, ask for money up front,
Mhm.
especially unless they have a structure and process like Marvel, DC, or another established company. But say no, I want either I want half or a third up front, and none of this 6 days after publication. None
Yeah,
of this
no.
in comics, 6 days is like no, it's like pay me 2 weeks after at least. I mean, I made a deal with that with much later with another company where they want to pay 30 days after I was finished. I said, no, let's do 2 weeks after.
Yeah. That's a lot
After
of time, especially the amount of time
yeah,
it takes to draw the book too, right? Like it's,
yeah, yeah.
it's
I put
insane.
up with it. Yeah, I put up with it doing storyboards, uh, because storyboards are done fast, but still, it's 6 days is a lot to wait. 6 days is still a lot to wait. A
Oh
long time.
yeah, yeah,
But that's how I got the job. Um, that's how I got that job.
yeah.
So, uh, but at that
Wow.
time I was doing 8 pages a week of pages, and but always the last 2 pages were garbage. And I never sent it out UPS or FedEx because well, first they were expensive. Second of all, I wanted the extra time to draw, because if I had to send it, if I sent it out, I had to send it out on Thursday, and the deadline was Friday. So what I ended up doing was working up till 2, 3 o'clock on Friday, catching the subway and LIRR to Long Island, and so it was like an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes ride in total, going in there and turning in pages, and
Wow.
yeah, every Friday.
Wow. It's insane.
And so, but my reward was coming back, going to Penn Station. They had an arcade there, so I'll play a couple hours in the arcade, and then
Go
go
home and
home.
sleep.
Oh, yeah, yeah, go home and sleep. I probably worked on Saturday, but took off Sunday.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
but I
insane.
can't. Yeah, I went from 8 pages to 5 pages. Now I'm doing like 3 to 4 pages a week now.
Wow. Well, you had like quite a few different cool books you've worked on over the years, just kind of looking through your bibliography, as it were. But it's funny because going into this interview, I was familiar with working for obvious reasons, but there's one thing I totally forgot that you had done until I started doing more research, which was the Aztec, the Ultimate Man
Yes.
comic. I'm a huge Grant Morrison fan, massive Grant Morrison fan. So anything kind of related to him, I'm generally all in on, and that was one that I was a big fan of as well, as like because it kind of went along with his Justice League run as well. So how did you get to work on that book? Was that
Okay. I'm gonna tell you a longer story.
Oh, it's all right. No, these are great.
This led because I was working for again I was reunited with Michael Davis because
Hmm.
Michael Davis was a co-founder of Milestone Media
Hmm. Oh, yes,
along,
yeah.
along with Dennis Cowan, Derek Dingle, and the late Dwayne McDuffie.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Then Michael left Milestone and created Motown Machine Works. He was working. Mike is an excellent salesperson.
Hmm.
So he went into Motown, the Motown,
Wow.
Diana Ross, Barry Gordy,
Yeah.
Just Five Motown, and sold them an idea of doing animation and competing with Disney, and they would have a comic book component to that. And so and so at that time, I had just moved back in my parents. I had a fire, and my girlfriend and I had to move in my parents. And I gave Mike a call, and it was a time where he needed somebody to fill in for one of his books. And this is I think I'm a nemesis to a particular artist because the same artist that was fired for me on Chromie Man was then again fired for me on Chrome on the next book I was doing for Motown.
You think
I'm
he's
like,
you
oh,
think he's in a basement somewhere sharpening a
I
knife,
hope
thinking
not.
about you?
I
Yeah,
really hope not.
yeah.
I really hope not.
Some boiler room somewhere, just
Yeah. So I did a 5-issue run on a book called The Crush for Motown Machine Works
Mhm.
in '95, and so so there's my run on that title led me to getting the Aztec book because I went into DC Comics, showed them my sample work, and so at first I thought I was going to be doing two books a month, but Motown Machine Works ended up shutting down, and uh, uh, I was just doing I actually turned down Aztec because I was doing one book, and my friend who was inking me on the Crush said, "No, what are you doing? Take it. You don't know where this Motown Machine Works may not be here.
Yeah,
Take the book."
DC will be.
Yeah. So what happened was Paul Kupperberg gave me a call. I called him like an hour later and said, "Yeah, I'll take it." He said, "What happened?" I said, "I just changed my mind because I might have told him I just told you. I'm not sure, but
Mhm.
yeah." But
Wow.
so and before that I did like a 10 page story for the last issue of Black Lightning because I needed the artist.
Mhm.
I ended up like plotting out the last 10 pages and drawing. But I wasn't. If I knew better, I would have asked for more money.
Yeah, yeah.
um,
Basically made the whole comic.
yeah, I mean, because I applied out. I applied out. I did more than what was asked of
Mm,
me.
yeah,
No, actually, it asked me to do it, so I did more than what I should have done for those last 10 pages. I
yeah.
you know I yeah kind of make some stuff up. But yeah, that was that was my first time drawing the appearance of Batman because Batman ended up being the last couple pages of or
Right.
last page of that comic book. And I did also I did a Wonder Woman pinup for the Wonder Woman gallery that came out in late '95 or early '96. I'm not sure, but I did it in '95, and then uh, that led into Aztec, and I had actually time to do the book. I mean, to because there was a leeway for a few months. So I think I started drawing it like in December, January,
Hmm.
and it didn't come out until the spring or summer
Did
of
I
that
s-
year.
did I see you're listed as a co-creator? Like, did you design the look of
Yes.
the? Oh,
I,
wow.
yeah, yeah. And that was the first artist. I met the artist that was going to be on that book at C2E2 back in 2020.
The same guy from Machine Works. I'm just,
No, 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 no,
I'm
no.
kidding. I'm just kidding.
Oh God, no, no. And this artist happened to be, I think, a Latino artist. I'm not sure if he was from Central America or Mexican
Mhm.
or and but he was going to be the artist on that book. But I forgot. He told me why he didn't take it. But he did some designs, but I didn't follow those designs. I did my own design for Aztec. So that and hence I helped build the world. So I get co-creator credit
Oh,
for
that's
it.
cool.
And if a movie is made with Aztec's name in the title, I get credit
Oh,
and make money for that too.
well, who knows nowadays? Yeah. He actually, he's one of those characters that I don't remember. Like I dip in and out of comics more than I used to be. Like I'm not reading everything all the time.
Mhm.
But he's one that I always really liked, and I don't think I ever really see came back very much. I'm hoping he's out there in the DC universe
I think
somewhere.
there was a couple iterations. There was a couple of iterations of Aztec, and within the last 10, 15, last 20 years, there was a two. It was his twin, I think it became his
Oh,
evil twin that may have become, and there's a couple of women Aztecs. One of
oh,
them was,
okay, cool.
yeah, I think one was a black woman that became Aztec. It was brief. Maybe it was an alternate reality
Hmm.
world, something like that.
It was always a unique. It was always a cool and unique character, and I always really did like the design. So I'm really glad to hear that you came up with that as well. So
Yeah,
that's really neat.
it had a strong. I mean, okay, I won't say a strong following because it was canceled, but it was a following. People who liked Aztec loved Aztec.
Yeah, no, I certainly did, and they folded him into Morrison's JLA, which is cool too. So
Yeah, and
you
there
know,
was even a letter writing. It was even a letter writing campaign that's trying to save it.
really, oh, that's really nice.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
read a story recently. It's unrelated to this, but just I think it's really funny. It was Spider-Girl, the Tom DeFalco series that he did for Marvel, where it was like
Oh,
they did the What If comic and then they spun it off into its own parallel universe where Peter Parker's daughter is Spider-Girl in the
okay,
future. And
okay.
the book had been canceled and then restarted a few times, but at one point it was canceled. It was supposed to be canceled, and they got this really heartfelt letter for some little girl
Hmm.
about how much the series meant to her, and it actually sort of convinced them to keep the book going longer. And they wanted to reach out to the girl that that had sent the letter. So they I don't know if they went there or they called the house or something to like speak directly to the person who wrote the letter. And the wife answered the phone and they said, "We want to speak to this like little girl." I'm like, "Well, what for?" And they said, "Well, we're from Marvel Comics. We got her letter." And then she goes, "Oh, I think you want to speak to my husband. He's the comic reader in the house." And then they found out the husband wrote the letter and said it was from his daughter because he loved the comics so much, which is still sweet in its own way, but it's just really, really funny that
Yeah, yeah. I kind of saw that coming. I said, no.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But no, it was, and no, it obviously tied into like a greater work with what Morrison was doing over there. But what was because like he was co-writing that with Mark Miller at the time, right? So what was working for those two like? Like were they? I don't know if their partnership ended. I can't speak to how because they collaborated on a few things and it seemed like they I don't know if they had a public falling out or something, but they didn't seem
Yeah,
to work out
very
much.
public falling out.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of it till like years later.
Hmm.
But I talked to them separately. It was talking to Mark was funny because he talks really fast
Hmm.
in his accent. So I had to treat him like not. I'm not saying he was. I had to treat him like a drunk uncle
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
listen and like get the main idea of what he was saying.
Mhm.
If Grant spoke slower and I could understand what he was saying, more patient, more deliberate, or just slower. He spoke slower than Mark did. But it was great talking to both of them over the phone. I ran the Grant maybe 3 years ago. He was in New York at Barnes Noble doing a speaking engagement.
For his new
And
book, Luba or whatever.
probably,
Yeah.
uh, and I talked to him real brief in this game. Yeah, so just let him know I was here. And but
Well, that's nice.
I
He's
was
always been a I don't know. I don't know what part of his work has appealed to me, but some it everything he's done I really like on some levels. So
yeah. But the difference between your scripts was Grant was more had more like a spooky sense. Like
mhm.
with the character with the young nurse who was siphoned her essence was siphoned by the Lizard King.
Mhm.
So he was doing like spooky, creepy stuff like that. Mark was more like straight superhero stuff. Like it was like, I really felt that with issue 8 when Aztec was attacking these guys, these goons that were taking over a museum or something like that, if I remember correctly. But he was more like straight superhero stuff. Uh, and but still was compelling reading. Both of them were compelling reading. And I was always drawn into the scripts they were writing, and they were very interesting and fun read each time.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's very different worlds. I don't know. Morrison seems like he's just kind of mired in that the strange, ethereal kind of
yeah,
existential stuff of
yeah.
superheroes. Well, Miller, and I don't want to like, yeah, I'd love to have him on the show someday. So, and I'm a fan of his work, but it seems like a lot of his stuff is geared towards like making a franchise. Like this is something that's going to
Nowadays,
become
yeah. Oh yeah,
something else.
nowadays, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So this will be a Netflix show, or this will be a movie, or this will be something, and you can almost read it, seeing the art that's inspired by the people that are supposed to play them if the movie gets made. You know, like it's even like it's
Yeah,
there's even I remember reading Wanted and being like, oh, it's very clear about who all these people are supposed to be in the eventual
yeah,
movie. When they made
yeah,
the movie, none of them were those characters. But
yeah,
you know, it's very interesting, you know, and there
yeah.
are certain projects of his that like to middling, you know, to different levels of success, but have come and gone. And you know, some of them have been pretty big franchises that have had several movies, so it's worked out for him.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It seems, as a comic purist, I guess, like Morrison seems to really appreciate and respect the art form. Well, I know Miller always kind of seemed like it was a means to an end.
Mm, interesting.
But you know, that's not fair. He's not here to comment on that. So he'd probably tell me to go to hell, which is not necessarily. But like a lot of his stuff, I mean, it's great in its own way.
I mean, Mark to say that he still used. I mean, he loves comics because he still. I
Yes,
mean, doing this through comics, and he could probably do it through another
That's
way.
true. At this point, he probably wouldn't need to do a comic first. You know what I mean? He could probably
Yeah.
just pitch the show to producers and not have to worry about it. So you're right. There definitely has to be a love there.
Hmm.
Wow. So connecting beyond that, I mean, going into the like your career that came afterwards. Did you have, is there one project that you consider your defining work? Like if someone had to look at your oeuvre and say, this is the book that like best
Oh,
defines my art style or me as an artist? I mean, I guess every artist would say it's the next one or the one you're working on now, right?
yeah.
Because you're always growing, but
Okay. I guess what shows my range. I don't know. 'Cause it's just like I don't know because I mean I had fun doing Watson and Holmes.
yeah, that's a really neat book. Yeah.
I had fun doing I did Voltron. I had fun doing that, but I got paid so little with that. But it was fun. Um, I had fun doing Michael Cray.
Yeah, that was neat. That was
But it was like so deadline hampered the first 6 issues. I really and I wanted to come back with a vengeance with issue 7. And I think I did. Um, I really had fun when I came. Cause I was like for issues 4, 5, and 6 I did in finishes. I had to finish over um Larry Hammer's breakdowns.
wow.
And so I was just getting my feel for the book for the first 3 issues,
Hmm.
and then I had to take a step back and do finishes and get the book back on time.
Uh,
And that at that time I was going through I had to have surgery because I was going through issue with prostate cancer.
oh wow.
And but fortunately it wasn't if you catch prostate cancer early, it's like you go through surgery, bang bang bang. For the most part, it's like you just take a rest for like a few weeks, and you should be back to going back to normal. I mean, there's some stuff that's so you got to deal with in that time, but is I think if I had another cancer, it'd be much worse. You
Yeah.
know, but yeah, so I had to deal with that. But that was the book. I mean, so I came back with issue 7 doing full pencils, really enthused, ready to go. So 7, 8, 9, I really gave it to it. But I had to do 9 in like I had to do issue 9 in 3.5 weeks because the script was late for issue 7,
Mm.
and so I had that caught up to me by issue 9. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh.
It's
So I
got
had
to be. I have a lot of respect for editors, like to live
yeah,
in a world where you gotta like, you gotta deal with
yeah.
artists and wrangle them and be like,
And then
get their
shout out
stuff
to
on
Brian.
time.
Yeah, shout out to Brian Hill for making dope scripts and dope writing, but no, but is that lateness caught up to me with because he was doing stuff with Titans,
Yeah.
and that probably led into that for whatever reason, and then I had to do issue 10 and breakdowns, in finishes because at that time Phil Hester did the the did the did the breakdowns, and I
Mm.
did the finishes, and I thought it was good, right? But then in the infinite wisdom of the editors, they wanted me. I only did half issue 11. Like that affects you. That affects your wallet.
Oh yeah, of course.
But see, with the difference between DC now and DC then, when the book was falling behind with Aztec, and I did it in breakdown. Now I did it in breakdowns, and the inker did the finishes, and that
Mm.
took a hit. That was a hit on my pocket, right?
Mm.
And but the book never shipped late
Mm.
with Aztec, and I got a bonus for that.
Oh, nice. Well, that's
Yeah, so
good.
that made up for the 2 issues that I had to do in breakdowns. I didn't get any bonus for this over here for Michael Cray.
Mm.
So it's like I took a hit and there was no compensation for it.
Ah.
And the inker took a more of a hit because he was expecting to do uh issue 10 and I thought he knew, but they didn't even let him know that he wasn't getting anything because I mean he was no, he ate the pages I did. So I did around half the book or less than half the book. But he was expecting more pages coming. I said, no, I'm only doing half the book. Then the other guy who's doing it, well, he did it digitally, so he did pencils or line work
Yeah.
for the page. So I thought they told him, and so he got hit too. So you get hit, and it's like because if the higher up in the chain, whoever messes up the higher up in the chain affects the more people.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it trickles
And
down for sure. Shit rolls downhill to use to use the idiom, I guess. But
exactly. So
yeah,
I try to be mindful of when I'm doing these pages, especially on the deadline like with Marvel and DC. I want to
yeah,
get I want to get paid, and I don't want anyone looking at me funny because I was late for them.
yeah, of course.
So but Michael Cray was fun to work on. I wish it lasted a little longer. Uh,
Wow.
After that, I did the indie book called after the indie book called Indigo Clan,
Mhm.
which is a martial arts metaphysical action event. I'm trying to think of the pitch I give at conventions. It was a
Yeah.
metaphysical martial arts action adventure
All
featuring
right.
5 to 6 young people fighting an ancient evil across the world. So
Okay.
they use their and it's 5 different young people from across the world, from different parts of the world, and they use their culture and their spiritual belief as weapons to fight this ancient evil. So you have a brother from Brazil, you have a woman from South Asia, a woman from Mesoamerica, or who's native, indigenous of like the
Mhm.
Southwest region, I think, into Mexican region, or the South Central American region, I think, and you have a brother from Cuba, and a young girl from Oakland, California, and they have these special abilities to fight this ancient evil and access their past lives to fight this ancient evil. So it's real deep
Oh,
metaphysical.
that's very cool. It's really cool. Like you've kept your hand in some really cool projects. I
Yeah.
noticed that you also participate in a few gallery shows, like for comic book art.
Mhm.
And that's always something that I, as an older, like as you age a little bit, and as someone that still has a reverence for comics and has your whole life, it warms my heart to see comics in an art gallery, comic pages
Oh,
beside, in quotes, traditional art, or real art, as some people call it, like to put and have respect it for the beautiful art form it is. Because, like there's a level of, I don't have to tell you, but there's a level of comic book art that comes, it's not just drawing a pretty picture, it's storytelling. Like you have to convey a story without, it's like, I can't remember who it was. It might have been Hitchcock who said, like, if you can watch a movie with it muted and still tell what's going on, then you've done your
that's
job.
key. That's key to
Yeah,
comics. I mean, I was always told that. If you can tell pretty much what's going on without the use of words, then I've done my job. I mean, you
exactly.
don't get all of it because words will fill in some of the blanks. But if you can tell that if you tell the basic idea of this narrative I'm putting down,
Yeah.
then I've done my job.
This guy hates that guy, this person, whatever,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
all, if it's conveyed and there's a real, like, it's one of those ethereal things that you couldn't write a book per se and say, this is how you storytell. I mean, you can, but everyone's got to figure out their own way. And,
yeah. And
it's,
it's not easy as I think because I know a colleague of mine once said that the learning comics is like learning to be a doctor. You have to do your 4 years, then do a 4 year residency after your 4 years of college, and then you go out to the world. So it's like you because it's it's about consistency. It's about doing things, getting things, making things readable. So I call comics the left brain. It's like is a more of a merging of left and right brain
Mhm.
in the art medium because you got to be real logical, at least in your head, and project yourself onto the reader to make sure to get an idea if this makes sense. Does this make sense? Am I looking at this? But do I have the elements that's in the script?
Mm.
Is it rational? Uh, am I being clear? Am I being vague? Is this translating to the page like I wanted to? So it's very thoughtful. It's a medium that needs to be. It's a medium that requires thoughtfulness.
Mhm. Well, so yeah, to see it in art gallery shows showcasing artwork, I mean, is that something that, like, what's that experience like? Is it like, I guess what I'm getting at is, if you to see your work up there with in a place that's sort of traditionally it's always been a certain style of work. So to see something that's sort of more modern, like comic art, kind of appreciated at the same level, is that something that's you've always sort of wanted to see, or is it just something that is nice, or does it elevate the medium to a level reminiscent of those other ones?
It's another reason to get me out the house. No,
Yeah, that works
no,
too.
it's great. I mean, it's great. The better, the more spread out, or the more uh, seen, the more I get to reach out my network, the better, or reach
Yeah,
out comic network, the better.
yeah.
Because I mean, and it is better for the medium because when artists are sought after, they don't have to. We don't have to. I don't have to be beholden to the companies. Uh, so
Oh,
when we're
yes, I
sought
see.
after from other markets, other venues like galleries, schools, want to are invited for speaking. Uh, one of one are sought after for someone's uh um what's the word I'm looking for money from the government or money from grants
Oh, grants, yeah, yeah.
grants to fill the grant for for a specialized group or for a focus group or for that for whatever.
Hmm.
It just it increases that artist's uh money or monetary funds so they can say no to a Marvel or DC when or another company that wants to give them so little and ask for so much. So in the jobs I've done after Michael Cray, those jobs I've had a higher pay rate from them than
Hmm.
I've had from Marvel and DC, and DC was giving me a pay rate a little more than I was making uh 20 plus years ago.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, what what are you doing here?
I know it's weird how like the level of how I mean, I guess it's a huge corporation, so there's all kinds of crazy stuff
Mhm.
involved. But you think about the level of it's how quickly they forget about the thing that led to the thing that's making them the billion-dollar franchise, right? It's
Yeah,
like if you get these comics are obviously the groundwork for these movies that have hundreds of millions of
yeah,
dollars of budgets and make $1 billion in the box office. And you think about like I remember Jim Starlin sadly saying he made more money for his guest appearance as like someone in the background in Infinity War than he made for the fact that like his character was the main villain in like 10 movies. Like it's and I know they do often give them something. It's usually more of a symbolism sort of thing than an
yeah.
actual.
I got something I got something for the first Deadpool movie because the,
Oh, that's
the
nice.
the first Deadpool movie was based off the story that Jim Kelly wrote. Joe Kelly, not Jim Kelly.
Joe Kelly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Joe
It's
Kelly.
all right. It's
It
close.
was Joe Kelly. He did a Deadpool Annual '98 that focused that touched on the origin of Deadpool, and I drew that issue.
Mhm.
So we both got money from the Deadpool movie that came out.
Now, was that something that would have been in your contract, or is that just Marvel saying, "Thank you, here you go"?
I think that's something Marvel saying thank you. Here you go.
Yeah, and I often wonder if it's. I mean, I'm happy that they do that for sure.
Yeah,
Because
DC contract or policy is much more is not much better, but better than Marvel's policy on art with artists get either points or some kind of recognition for the or like money for the characters they do.
yeah, the most important thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
actually, and when I was doing Aztec, I was when I was doing Aztec, uh, also I got insurance too.
right. Oh, right. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
health
That's.
insurance.
I always forget about that in the States. You guys have to worry about that. Yeah, in
Yeah,
Canada, just
yeah.
I don't
I
have to
wish.
worry.
Yeah,
But well, hopefully someday you guys will get the same
hopefully.
system.
Yeah.
But well, what's next for you? What are you working on now that you can talk about? I mean, I don't want to get you in any trouble.
Uh, right now I'm doing a book for this big project called Epiphany Engine, uh where all the where many independent Black creators have are using their characters or allowing their characters to be used to come together in this big crossover to fight an evil, and
Oh,
it's
cool.
being
So all
helmed.
independent comic creators are coming joining their
Yeah,
characters together. Oh, that's really neat.
yeah. So it's being helmed by Tony Cottrell and edited by Joe Illidge. But shout out to people involved, Jibe Molefe. Oh God,
Oh, so no
uh,
worries.
Marcus Roberts, and shout out to Greg Anderson, Elise, who was the co-creator of Is Not the Weird Spider. He's a young brother out here in New York, doing great things with his title. He's no longer part of the project. He had a hand in helping it come to life. Uh, uh, which I'm working on right now, and I'm working on a series off and on for this young man. I shouldn't say young man. He's this brother out in Chicago named Stefan Manuel. He uh he does he has a company called True Fiction, which touches on actual history in America, but using fictional people to tell the story or to
Oh, that's cool.
not tell the story, but experience the story. So I did three so far. I'm working on the four. I'll be starting the fourth one this week. The first three I did was the first one was called Jude's War, was dealt with a young man coming back from World War II, a black man coming back from World War II, dealing with PTSD, Jim Crow South, and the beginnings of the Civil Rights Movement. And it's just like told in the 9-10 page stories.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
the second one I did was a woman who passes for a black woman that passes for white, who works with the NAACP in the early part of the 20th century. That's part of the anti-lynching movement. So she goes into white neighborhoods and collects lynching paraphernalia. And lynching paraphernalia is nothing for the faint of heart. Lynching,
Oh,
par- lynching paraphernalia not only includes pictures, but includes maybe body parts of the lynched person.
oh my God.
Yeah, that
God.
keep that the people keep as trinkets.
Oh,
Yeah,
I don't know if you're familiar with Mark Maron. I listened to his podcast and he talked about recently he went to like I don't know, there's like the museum somewhere, like the Lynching Museum.
probably watching DT, watching
Yes, I
DC.
think he might have been, and he said how like you look at these photos and it's like the people that are there to watch.
It's a thing.
It's like date night. They're like out, they're like in their finest to go out, and this is the entertainment.
Yeah, and it's I don't know if this is true or factual, but the word picnic comes out of that, and picnic means pick a nigger.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Now,
Oh, wow.
I'm not saying it's quote.
Yeah.
I haven't. I've heard this for years. I never checked it, but yeah, yeah. So these were actually outings, family outings with the kids.
Yeah.
They brought
Oh,
the kids there. I mean, it's
to go watch a
live
human being die.
being
Like
being,
it's fucking
being hung,
horrible.
yeah, hung, burned. It's great. It's hard. No, it's great. It's horrible. And the
Yeah.
third one I did was about the Great Migration, which is a focus on a couple that leaves Alabama to go to Chicago, and they're on a train, a segregated train, and so you learn about what the segregated train looks like, and it's a train where the black people are in the car where the black people are in that is right behind the engine car, so they're getting all the smoke and soot,
Mhm.
and they're in there with livestock as well, so chickens, goats, what are
Well,
pigs,
I think it's important now more than ever that people know the truth about history
yeah,
and not what is told and packaged and sanitized to make it
yeah,
to gloss over the harder parts of our history. I just picked up a book the other day. It was a graphic novel at a store I stopped by. They have like used books, and sometimes I don't know where they come from, but somebody will donate some comics. So I usually grab ones if they're of interest. And there's one called it's based on a popular book by James Lowen called Lies My Teacher Told Me.
okay,
And Nate Powell drew it, but it's all about like everything that the American like the teaching system tells you, and how far it is from what actually happened. So like he does the parallels and shows you what the truth is, and how a lot of the and like Canada's not devoid of that either, but a lot
yeah,
of how like what we're taught in North America is sort of the happy European version of the truth, which is
yeah,
far from
oh
what
yeah,
it
oh
actually
yeah,
is. So I think
yeah.
it's important that in an age of a lot of misinformation, that there are still people out there trying to tell the truth and the real sort of history and the real stories.
Yeah, yeah. Canada has its own history with the native population up
Oh
there.
yeah, yeah. But we're not. Our hands aren't clean either.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, the school system, where they would force indigenous people's kids to go to Christian schools and be, essentially tortured, traumatized, and often murdered by priests and other people. Like and have their culture like kind of ripped away from them. It's it's a lingering. It's something that only kind of like in the past couple decades got brought up again and talked about, but it's something that is sad that was never really taught before.
Yeah.
And but yeah, no, I certainly don't point any fingers towards anybody's particular nation's history, because there's not one. You can show me one country on earth that doesn't have some horrible shit in its back.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But no, that's important work. I'm glad to hear that's a new project coming out. So
Yes, I think that's I have a possible one coming up, but we'll see what happens with that. So I've had a great 6 years, because I mean after Michael Cray was like, there was a time where I was like not doing a lot of work for like 4 or 5 months. Then a woman helped me, out of that by a teaching residency out in Detroit. She's since passed away from breast cancer.
Oh.
But shout out to Maya Crown Williams, who she did a comic book convention called MechaCon out in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
And she helped found another event called a conference called BSAM, Black Speculative Fiction Art Movement. But and also then I got the book I just told you, Indigo Clan, that helped me, get back on track. And then so I was doing work 2019. Then the pandemic happened, and ironically, I was more busy during the pandemic. And so it's been pretty good since 2019. For me.
Well, I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, but I gotta get back. I've gotten comfortable, so I haven't had to hustle as much. So I got.
Well, that's okay. More. It's okay to take your foot off the gas every once in a while.
Yeah, it was good. So now I gotta get send out more emails. Do more posts, let people know I'm out here, and also I haven't done as much convention since before 2020. So I'm trying to go do a little more, get back on the convention circuit and do that some more too.
Oh, awesome. Perfect. Well, I'll certainly fly the flag, and this will be out in a little bit, and I'll certainly have that there as well. Well, thank you so much. This is a real honor talking to you, Stephen.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you have a good rest of your day.
All right, we'll do. All right. And people can find me on Instagram.
Oh yes, yeah, we're
Instagram and Blue Sky. Yeah. And Stephen Harris. Just type in N Stephen Harris, Stephen with a V, not PH.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen with a V. On Instagram. Blue Sky, if you're in the weeds with business, I'm on LinkedIn too.
Perfect.
Yeah, and Facebook, and my website is nstephenworks.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Stephen.
Thank you, man.
Right.
Appreciate you.
Have a great day. There you have it, my conversation with N. Stephen Harris. Great chat, great dude, amazing artist, and doing some really cool work out there, and still doing some really cool work out there. So get out there, check it out. His work on Michael Cray, his work on Deadpool, Batman, his new work on the Watson and Holmes series, and yeah, just banging out amazing work. And very, very happy to have him on the show. So if you're listening, Stephen, thank you for being on the show. And those of you out there that are listening, tune in next week. We have another great, fun-filled episode. This will be another episode 132. Don't have it quite in the can yet, so I'm not going to know who that is. But as always, it's going to be a great chat with a great creator. We're going to get to the heart of the artist, which is, the goal here, the real goal. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe. Please check out our sister podcast, X-Rated, the X-Men Anime Review Show, and tell a friend. Just open your window, open your door, lean out, and just yell, "Hey, go listen to the Graphic Histories podcast." It's part of our superliminal advertising campaign. I'll catch you in 2 weeks' time. The Graphic Histories podcast is a proud partner of the United Federation of Podcasts.